The dawn mist clung stubbornly to the waters of the Lingayen Gulf. The Pacific, usually a shimmering expanse of blue, was now a sullen battlefield waiting to be claimed. It was January 1945, and the Japanese Imperial Navy still held pockets of power across the Philippine archipelago. On the northern shore, tied up at a rickety pier, sat the San Esteban, a rust-streaked ferry that once carried tourists and livestock between Luzon's fishing villages. She was slow, clumsy, and about as threatening as a wet loaf of bread. Captain Miguel Santiago stood on her weathered deck, staring at the water with narrowed eyes. A veteran of the Philippine merchant fleet, he had survived 3 sinkings, 2 typhoons, and a Japanese prison camp. Now, at 43, he was about to take the San Esteban into the most dangerous mission of his life. "This is madness," muttered his first mate, Ramon Cruz, adjusting his faded cap. "You want to take this floating coffin against a Japanese fleet?" Miguel's jaw tightened. "Not want. Have to. That fleet is headed here. Destroyers, cruisers, maybe even a battleship. If they anchor in the Gulf, our landing forces will be trapped. We can't wait for the Yanks' planes. We stop them now, or we lose Luzon." Below deck, a handful of guerrillas and U.S. Navy demolition men were cramming the ferry's cargo hold with crates, each filled with explosives, fuel drums, and makeshift torpedoes. The plan was insane: turn the San Esteban into a floating bomb, get close to the Japanese ships, and detonate her in their midst. By mid-morning, the ferry chugged out of the pier, her engine coughing like an old smoker. The crew numbered just 12, Miguel, Ramon, 8 guerrillas, and 2 American demolition specialists. Among them was Sergeant Daniel "Danny" O'Reilly, a wiry Boston native whose humor masked a calculating mind. "This tub's about as subtle as a marching band," Danny said, leaning against the rail. "You sure they won't see us coming?" "They'll see," Miguel replied, scanning the horizon. "But they'll think we're just another civilian ferry. That's the only chance we've got." The Japanese fleet appeared just after noon, ghostly shadows in a mist that slowly hardened into steel. Through binoculars, Miguel counted 2 destroyers, a light cruiser, and 3 troop transports. Their wakes churned white against the gray water. Ramon swallowed. "That's a lot of guns, Captain." Miguel lowered the binoculars. "That's a lot of reasons to keep going." The ferry's approach was slow, almost painfully so. Every vibration of the worn diesel engine felt like a drumbeat counting down to their doom. On deck, the guerrillas sat silently, hands gripping rifles that would be useless against the enemy's armor. At 2,000 meters, a Japanese signal flag went up on the nearest destroyer. A warning. Miguel ordered the engine to slow, making the San Esteban look even more harmless, just another hapless civilian craft. But the destroyer's guns began to pivot. "They're not buying it," Danny said grimly. Miguel made his decision. Full speed. Straight at them. The ferry's engine roared in protest, belching black smoke as she surged forward. The destroyer fired a warning shot. Its shell splashed into the water just ahead. The next shot wouldn't miss. Bullets ripped across the ferry's deck as Japanese machine guns opened up. One guerrilla was thrown back, lifeless, as the rest ducked behind crates. Miguel held the wheel steady, eyes locked on the cruiser that loomed behind the destroyer. That was their target, the Amakusa, a sleek predator bristling with guns. "Steady, steady," Miguel muttered. Another shell screamed past, tearing the ferry's mast into splinters. The air was thick with cordite and the bitter stench of burning wood. Then a deafening explosion rocked the port side. One of the fuel drums had been hit, igniting a small fire. Danny and 2 guerrillas scrambled to contain it, dousing the flames with wet canvas. At 500 meters, the Japanese gunners were no longer missing. The deck was a storm of splinters, metal fragments, and screams. Ramon staggered to Miguel's side, his arm bleeding heavily. "We'll never make it. We've got to bail." "No," Miguel said, voice like steel. "We make it." At 300 meters, the Amakusa loomed like a fortress. Miguel's hands tightened on the wheel. This was it, one final dash. Then came the twist of fate. A Japanese shell slammed into the ferry's bow, tearing open the forward hold and igniting the explosives prematurely. Smoke poured out in choking clouds. Danny appeared, soot-covered, shouting over the chaos. "The detonator's fried. She'll blow in less than a minute whether we're ready or not." Miguel's mind raced. They were too far to guarantee sinking the cruiser. Too close to turn back. And every second was a razor cutting away their chances. Without hesitation, Miguel shoved Ramon toward the port lifeboat. "Get them off." "No." "What about you?" Ramon's voice broke. Miguel forced a smile. "Someone's got to steer her in." The crew hesitated only a heartbeat before obeying. Under covering fire from the guerrillas, they piled into the lifeboat, lowering it into the churn below. Danny was the last to climb down, locking eyes with Miguel. "You're a stubborn bastard, Captain," he said. "Tell my daughter I kept my promise," Miguel replied quietly. Alone now, Miguel gripped the wheel, guiding the burning ferry straight toward the cruiser's starboard side. The Japanese ship loomed so close he could see the shocked faces of her crew, hear the shouted orders in frantic Japanese. Machine gun fire raked the ferry, but Miguel didn't flinch. 10 seconds. The Amakusa was so near that its shadow swallowed the San Esteban. 5 seconds. Miguel closed his eyes, hearing only the roar of the flames and the pounding of his heart. 1 second. The world exploded. The blast was like the wrath of the sea itself, fire and steel erupting in a monstrous column that split the mist and shook the water for miles. The cruiser's midsection vanished in a geyser of flame, her aft guns twisted skyward before collapsing. One destroyer was thrown sideways by the shockwave, her hull buckling. From the lifeboat, Ramon and the others watched in stunned silence as the wreckage burned. The Amakusa was sinking fast, her bow already sliding beneath the waves. Danny broke the silence. "He did it. Damn him, he actually did it." Ramon looked at the burning sea, his voice a whisper. "No, he became the San Esteban. That's how a ferry attacked a Japanese fleet." Hours later, as night fell over the Gulf, the survivors were picked up by a USPT boat. The Japanese fleet, crippled and leaderless, retreated from the area, leaving the way clear for Allied landings. The story of the San Esteban spread quickly among both American and Filipino troops. They spoke of the rusting ferry that charged a warship, of the merchant captain who turned a civilian vessel into a weapon of war. For many, it was just another legend in the chaos of battle. But for those who had been there, the memory was sharp as broken glass. The sight of a lone ferry, burning against the gray sea, racing toward a wall of steel, and winning.